first tier support in the UK.
You're most probably going to keep them with a business longer. They'll feel more appreciated and feel like the business has given them some sort of loyalty that you'll reap that back in reward.
Welcome to the MTD podcast. My name is Rowan Easter-Robinson and I'm a proud member of the MTD team. Now today we're going to be talking about the importance of upskilling your workforce and making sure that they have the best skills to be able to use, in this case, Hexagon software, and how choosing Hexagon as a production software company can get the best out of your users and out of your employees. We're also going to discuss why you should be upskilling your staff and why they're probably the most important asset to your business. But first of all, have a bit of an introduction here. We've got two Hexagon staff members here today. We've got Vicky Allnutt and Paul Smithson. And we've also got Lindsay Vickers, our illustrious member at MTD. So first of all, though, Vicky, could you please introduce yourself and tell us what your background is at Hexagon, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Vicky Allnutt. I'm the Production Software UK Support and Services Manager. I've been with the company for just over a year now, but previously I've held 18 years in operational management, focusing on service excellence, continual improvements, staff culture, and basically placing customers at the heart of the business.
Absolutely. So customers at the heart of the business is really important because that's what makes the money. But staff culture, I find that fascinating as well. I guess hopefully we'll dig into that as we explore kind of what your staff mean to your business. Also, we've got Paul, an industry expert here. Paul, what's your background?
Okay, hi, my name's Paul Smithson. My background is, so I've worked in engineering all my background. So I worked as a design engineering in the tooling sector. I did that for about 15 years, and then I made the transition over onto the software side, actually. So I used the product that I support now in engineering, and I use the skills I developed there to help develop a support team and support our new users now for that same product.
Brilliant. True engineer we have. And also another true engineer in a slightly different sense, Lindsay Vickers.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, so I'm Lindsay Vickers. I've been working with MTDCNC for the past 6 years now, just touring, I can't even say the country, the globe now, discussing the metal cutting industry and the products within it, really. And I love every moment of it, to be honest with you.
Absolutely, I do too. It's a great job, isn't it?
It is.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough to be talking today about people and your staff in a company being probably your most important assets. Now, I'm going to start.
Well, I was just going to say, with, Rowan, yourself and I, we work for MTDCNC, and there's, 25 plus of us, but Hexagon's huge. That's a lot of people to be looking after and backing up all of the service and support, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. We are a global business, so we stretch over pretty much most countries across the world, and I wouldn't like to put an exact figure on our staffing numbers nowadays, but you're looking in the thousands,
or tens of thousands even.
Thousands,
you were talking about over 23,000
absolutely.
people.
Yes,
It's amazing.
Yeah, and that comes with great benefits to us as a business, because although I obviously cover the UK region, we have a wealth of knowledge across the globe that we can then stretch into to pull on resources, knowledge, and support when we need to enhance ourselves.
You can imagine each of those over 23,000 people has a unique skill set, which I guess hopefully comes together to make a fantastic business.
I mean, we're digressing ever so slightly, but we've had a few members of the Hexagon team in here this morning talking about different podcasts. And one gentleman, and I think this really is showing the extent of how specialist you are as a brand. He had a PhD in gearboxes. In transmission. That's incredible.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of niche that we're talking about, and it's nice to talk about a brand of your size, but also all of those specialists within. And I think that is kind of backing up today's podcast. You have that support for industry at every angle.
I do have to actually plug, that was a fascinating podcast, we've got to say, about electric vehicles. I think you were listening in, Lindsay. Did you learn anything?
Yes, I learned a lot, and I thought, well, I need one, to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm not really living in the modern day world at the moment.
No, neither am I. No, we're living in the 1900s without a doubt. Hopefully the 80s, though, it's the best era. And yeah, Vicky's nodding her head there. Lovely. I'm sure you were born after the 80s, though, right, Vicky? No. Okay. Anyway, let's move quickly on. So, Vicky, I've got to ask you a question now. As obviously you look at service excellence, but also staff culture is fascinating. Why do you think the staff in a business, the people, are its greatest asset? I mean, we're talking specifically about manufacturing. Surely it's the machines that actually make the parts that are the most important part of a business.
Yeah, the people are the greatest asset in any business, not just manufacturing. Without these, these expertise and these people who are driven to drive the business forward in the right direction, machines are great, but fundamentally it needs a person at the other side of it to produce that machine, to program that machine, to actually develop it and to continue it, providing its desired output. It's you people. You'll never take people fully out of the world, the loop in general. We can work with automation, and we can make things more efficient and smoother and less costly, but fundamentally you're still going to need a person's brain, to program that robot to do that work, or to program that machine and to build it, and to keep the world developing in its future endeavours.
Absolutely. I think it's a very good point. I mean, some people think that automation is easy, and they see robots on production lines running and think, I only took imagine maybe a week to set the robots up, set the line up, but it's actually really hard to automate a process because there are so many different variables. And I think quite a lot of maybe the layman, I don't know, might think that it's easy, and it's absolutely not. You still need people in every link in the chain. Paul, what do you think makes staff so important for a business?
It's really the decision making, I think. It's fantastic having all these technology around us, but it still needs someone to drive it, to make the decisions, and program the technology to provide a working solution.
Yeah, I mean, a robot or a machine tool is probably only as good as the person who's running it. I'd say you might have a really fancy machine, but if I was left on it, then I'm not sure I'd be able to create too much.
I think it's the responsibility in having these people being trained, and I guess that's obviously what this podcast is about, but they need that responsibility, they need that confidence in what they're doing. Yes, someone's invested, and, we can talk about millions of pounds worth of investment in these machine tools, but it's having that confidence, that backup, that support in an ever-changing world. And I mean, these machines, they're constantly getting up, your software, it's all getting updated. And it's how I'm going to ask you the question then, how is it that Hexagon can stay on top of that ever-changing world, Paul?
Well, the first thing we do is we try and listen to our customers. We try and listen to what they're telling us that they want to use the software to do. So by developing functions that answer those questions or those problems, we're hopefully then feeding back to our customers and giving them tools that they want to see. So that's one thing we try on the most part to do.
But why do you think, mind if we take a step back and ask why it's important to invest in your people, not just, like you mentioned, millions of pounds worth of machinery? Why should you invest in people when you could just buy another machine tool? Let's say you could either get another VMC with some capacity for £200,000, or you could invest in some training, a new software package, and maybe some support subscription. If you were trying to convince them, why should they invest in their users of software who are sitting in the office necessarily not making a new part, whereas they could invest £200,000 into a new machine tool?
I mean, investing in a machine tool, it's not just the machine tool, it's all the additional utilities that you need to drive it. I mean, there's a space to have it in. It's the knock-on, I mean, it gets out of hand, I guess, to a certain degree. So it's definitely got to be a worthwhile investment. So there's got to be enough work to be able to sustain that.
And do you think there's maybe a risk involved if you always leave maybe a single employee as the kind of the center point of knowledge in a certain manufacturing process that is maybe the company's IP. What do you think, Vicky?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've just gone through a global pandemic, and I think even more so then it really highlighted, with COVID hitting many people, it identified that we have a bottleneck, and sometimes you have just one individual that know that machine, that software inside and out. They may win the lottery, as we always say, and move on the next day, or with the likes of COVID or fall ill, and then you've left a business in a risky situation where you've got nobody to continue that work in their absence. And
people retire.
Yeah,
people retire.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I went to a company, I think it was yesterday, and they were literally saying not yesterday, last week, and they were saying like 3 of my, my key players are moving on. So then, what position are they left in?
Yeah, and we've talked about previously the current skills market and the market as employment market as it stands. We are struggling to see some of that young new life coming into manufacturing, and maybe because we have progressed so much, it may not be a desired industry, or we're not investing as much in apprenticeships as much as we should be, which we're seeing the industry change, and that means then that we tend to find that there's not a lot of succession planning in businesses. So you can have your individual there that's been there for 10-15 years, and we just assume that they're going to be there another 10-15 years, and that then springs on you. It doesn't happen. There's the unknowns that that might crop up, and we haven't got anybody there then to backfill quickly. And when you then do backfill, it can take a good 12 to 14 months to upskill somebody, to a standard and a level that they're capable.
Do you think there's also maybe, as well as the kind of the de-risking in the business point of view, because we all know monarchies do change, obviously, so you need to do that succession planning. Do you think there's more of a kind of more human, I don't want to use the word holistic, I don't really know what it means, but it sounds right, approach where really actually people feel better when they've been upskilled and they feel like they provide more value to the company as a whole? Yeah,
I think it goes without saying, if you continue to invest in anybody's personal development, whether it be for business or for them as an individual, but everybody loves to learn. I don't, you can talk to younger children and they don't like school, but as the sheer fact is, we all love learning new things, and every day we always learn something, and I think the more that you invest in these individuals to continue on their development, whether that be work related or for their own personal desires, you're going to have more motivation. You're most probably going to keep them with a business longer. They'll feel more appreciated and feel like the business has given them some sort of loyalty that you'll reap that back in reward a long way down the road.
I'm going to go straight in there. So what is the offer that your support, like what are you offering to industry as a brand?
So we offer obviously our support functions with all of our production software products. We have a dedicated support team there, alongside with a dedicated support manager. But Paul heads up the Visi team, and with our other products, they all have their own support managers. Each of those team are highly experienced engineers at the other side of a phone, a computer, an email, the portal. We've got many means of contact into the service teams. They're there when your engineers get stuck, your machine's down. You've reaped all of your expertise and your knowledge within your company to help you get back up and running as quickly as possible. And the joys are, we've just moved from having been all in lockdown for so long, we've found ways now to do a lot of that remotely. So we no longer require to wait a day, 2 days to get an engineer on site. We can really do that over the phone now. We have abilities to remotely jump on your machines and to get you back up and running.
I mean, that's really interesting because we go out, a subcontract machine shop doesn't know what's coming in from one day to the next. And so inevitably, Paul, they're going to need help, aren't they? So, you mentioned a portal. Can you explain to me what this portal is?
So anybody with product support will be able to access a customer portal, and they can use that to either download updated versions of the software. They can see what they've previously asked us in the past. So if they've asked us or they can ask us new questions, obviously, but if they can look back through their history. So if they've asked us a question, we've given them the answer, and they've come across the same scenario, and it was 12 months ago, and they can't remember quite how they solved that job. They can look back through that information and just update their memory, really, of how they tackled, or how we helped them tackle a problem. So there's quite a bit of information in there that people can help themselves. But really, it's being able to contact us. So there's a remote link as well, which will help them, or help us contact them, or connect to them, should I say, onto their PCs, so we can see the problem firsthand. So they don't need to send us files. They basically just need to be in contact with us. So it's just another mechanism other than the phone or email to be able to get in touch with us.
And, say a company, they have NDAs on products and they're quite guarded because we know that happens. Where's the security behind it all?
I mean, we would never download any data. I mean, the customers still, I mean, all we're doing is viewing. So it's a viewing platform. I mean, we can take data from them, but it has to be, confirmed by the customer, so they have to allow us to have that data from them. So it's just a viewing platform, really, just to be able, a picture tells 1,000 words. You have to see the problem sometimes to be able to give targeted advice, really. Otherwise, you're sort of not guessing, but sometimes it takes a bit of time to get to where the problem lies. Whereas if you can see it.
And like you say, Paul, about targeted advice, it's not just kind of one office with a couple of engineers to cover every piece. And you offer a lot of different software packages. I mean, how big is the team that handles all the support for each of these software packages?
I mean, it varies from team to team, and it really depends on which country. So, I mean, we have first tier support in the UK, so we'll target. So first tier will primarily be the face that deals directly with the customer. A lot of the time, we can deal with questions within the first initial contact, but if we can't, and then it's a case of we need to investigate that ourselves. Just give ourselves, not having the pressure of the customer breathing down our back necessarily on the phone. We'll interrogate and maybe speak to some of our colleagues within the office. If we still cannot find a problem, then it's outside our knowledge base. We can then knock that up to a global team then, who will then have a bigger pool of engineers to be able to provide feedback on the particular problem.
So you've almost got kind of two layers of support there, which hopefully will catch every question that your clients have.
We've even got a third tier.
A third layer.
A third tier. We can go directly to the development.
This sounds like a very delicious cake.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was thinking the same.
Yeah, it depends upon how severe the problem is, really.
Okay, fantastic. But it's not just the kind of the instant support that you offer to customers. Obviously, when someone buys this piece of software, they won't know how to use it. As easy to use as it is, they will probably need a little bit of training. And how does the training work? I mean, is it remote? Is it on site? What do people generally try and go for?
You're right. I mean, the software is pretty intuitive, and people can start using it. But I would say they wouldn't get the most from it. They definitely need our support. They need our guidance, really. And everybody's slightly different, because we give sort of universal training, which will get you started on your journey. but then it becomes more specialist. Everybody's doing they've got their own little niches that they need specialist training, if you like, and we want to target training, not to give them information on tools that they're not likely to use. We don't want to waste anyone's time. We want to be able to give them instructions on how to use the product to get the most out of it in the particular niche that they're working in.
And what about people who maybe could be considered software veterans, who've been using it for 10 years and seen, I don't know, 15 different versions, but they're still, do you find that, I mean, does software change over time? How do you deal with people who say, well, look, I've been using this for 10 years, there's nothing you can show me, Paul?
Yeah, Rowan, look at your mobile phone. Just think about that. We all know
my phone's not been updated since 1985. Thank you very much.
Oh, that one. Oh, that one. Okay. But we know that everything's always changing so rapidly now.
Yeah, the software doesn't stand still by any means. It can't afford to, really. I mean, I was a user, so I was a user of our products before I became support services managers, and I thought I knew the product very well, but it's not really until you start to teach other people how to use something that you realise the bits you don't know, really. So, and I'm a completely different user of our products now to how I would have been then, just because I've dealt with lots of people and seen lots of experiences and just learned from them, really. So I apply the software differently now. That's not only from my experience, but because the software is different.
Paul, I want to ask you then. You've just said you were a user and now you're applying it differently. Can you get to the specifics of that? Like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing is coming? Maybe like what are the questions that you're normally getting asked? What are you seeing? And maybe just instantly when people listen to this, that they can learn from you and say, start looking in this area, start doing that. What are the things that are happening in industry where people are going down the wrong route and you can kind of bring them back?
I wouldn't say it's one specific thing, really. It's lots of little things, and sometimes the beauty of having a remote access to somebody is the first thing I'd always ask them to say, right, you show me the problem, you show me what you're doing at the moment and where the problem is. And quite often you can just pick out little things that they're doing, and you can just tell they've got into a habit of using the software in a certain way.
What are those habits? Sorry, I'm really diving a little bit deep.
Right,
now.
if I pick a specific, it would just be geometry selection. So if there was a chain of geometry that needed to select, somebody might be coming in and selecting each piece of geometry one at a time. So if there was 15, they'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4 and collecting them systematically. Whereas there's quite a few tools to be able to automatically select that geometry in one click. So just little things like that. It may only take you or save you a second, but every time you do that over the form of a day, obviously you and that's just one small example.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems with software, I think, is there's so many little buttons that you might not know exactly what that might be, tangent selection or whatever it is, face selection, that you don't know exists.
It's one of these.
Because no one's told you.
Yeah, it's one of these things. Some of the buttons are just hidden in plain sight. It's there, but because somebody doesn't really know how to apply it,
They'll avoid that button there because they don't know what it does.
They never touch it. That's right.
It's true, but it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
It's education. We often say this, don't they? Unless you're educated, you've then got the power. But if you're not, you think you have, but you haven't.
So if you're watching this and you're going to build up a CAD system when you get to work, if you're watching this on the morning commute, press that random button you never realised, never knew what it did.
Maybe not the big red one in your car or anything like that. Just
no,
so you
don't
know.
do that. No, once you get to work.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. So we've covered kind of how training works and how massive the training, the support is from Hexagon, how many people there are involved. What about kind of prospective buyers? How do people find out about the software? Can they learn through webinars, without kind of having to drive somewhere and go to a showroom or something? How do people find out more about the software in depth about how it would help them?
Yeah, so we offer lots of releases of videos and demos of our software, and equally, we have a whole pre-sales team that will come out and demonstrate any of our softwares to either to you from a basis of what the software actually does, and then if you wanted to go down to granular levels with your own part, your own model, that they can definitely do that once you establish if it is the right product for you. We also do things, we have short video clips on LinkedIn, on our social media sites, Facebook, etc., which will give you an overview of each product. And then once we regularly release tips and tricks, we do webinars, so you can jump on those, whether you're a customer or not. Obviously, if you're not using the software, they may not be of use at that stage because they may be at a higher level, but they will go into all of the latest features, all of the changes really, and hopefully help demonstrate some of those new efficiencies that you could learn.
But sometimes the devil could be in the details. Maybe watching a 1 hour webinar on exactly how someone picks a face or some tangent geometry and, I don't know, inverts it or something, I don't know, might be really useful if someone's trying to look at a new piece of software that they might be prospectively looking at.
I think ultimately what you're saying is, after you've purchased a product, that's not the end of the journey. That's the key message here, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's and we really encourage that. We encourage that that journey continues. Whether that's with refresher training, whether that's with us actually coming in and maybe doing some consultancy or bespoke work. We can come into your business, we can look at how you're doing things day to day, and then give you advisories on how you can either change your ways of working. If you're maybe taking 15 steps rather than 5 steps, and speed up a process, or whether it's actually producing additional modules or enhancements to that software that can help you move along the way.
And people are so set in their ways. We all know we are. We all think that we're doing right. But I think if you're listening to this, the main thing here is think that actually everything that we're doing, we can always be better. Everything that we do, we can always improve, become more efficient. And it's going, actually, hands up, I accept that I'm probably not doing it in the best way possible. So you're the professionals. Come and have a look at what I'm doing. And I bet, and I we're not talking about gambling, but I bet you will find improvements in every single machine shop around the country. 100%, I believe that. And I've only just met you. But it's true. With what you've got, you can.
How much would you put on that bet, Paul?
Go on, Paul. Oh, gosh,
Kit
he
Kat
doesn't.
Chunky.
Kit Kat Chunky.
I'm not saying I'm opinionated, but
No,
No, of course not.
You can always offer opinion on or a different perspective for sure. Some of the customers we have, they don't have the luxury of having team members that they can bounce ideas off.
Yeah.
So some people come to us and do exactly that, bounce ideas off us, and just different ways of or just having a discussion, thinking, well, I didn't think of looking at the problem that way, really. So they're not just getting the answer, they're just getting a different perspective on the problem that they've got. So.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's true, and maybe that could be more efficient, but maybe they could learn in a different area, and that's kind of what the direction you're coming from.
And that's where some of our classroom-based training actually, we have moved to a multi-option. We do remote sessions, remote training, as well as classroom-based training, as well as on-site training at customers' premises. But actually, some of our classroom training in-house. When you put multiple different customers in the same room using the same software, they then tend to learn and develop off of each other and understand the different challenges, or maybe some of the same challenges that they face within their company and how they've overcome those. So you've always got an experienced trainer in there that's helping them along the way. But to actually hear off of some of your peers, I guess, maybe
and surely
not be from the same company. But
surely there's a financial gain to that. I definitely think that there's a financial benefit from learning from one another. And we said something earlier about standardising in an earlier podcast, but there is definitely that coming together and gaining financially, whether it's through time, cost savings. There's got to be improvements that, you're talking to people every day about this, Paul.
Yeah, all our training, the key to it is we have a structured training regime on the most part, but we try to be flexible with it. It's really a case of we'd encourage people to come with the kind of geometry they're having to deal with, and show us the problems they're having to deal with. I mean, we've often seen customer problems before in some way, shape or form. So we've often got solutions or possible solutions for them. So, and there's often more than one. There isn't just one. The software these days there's so many options within it that you've got multiple paths to get to a final solution, and they don't always suit each problem either. So you need that many. You need a number of options really to tackle customers' problems.
You say this, engineers. You've all got so many of these different brains, different ideas. You're trying to get from A to B in so many different ways.
Absolutely. It's different workflows in software because it might have the exact same feature. We might do A before B or B before A or C and D and stick. You know, I mean, there's so many different paths, like you say.
Well, everyone's got different equipment for a start. Everyone's got different working processes or equipment, hardware within their organisation that they've got to use. So that sometimes just dictates really on the paths they follow. So.
Absolutely. And we've talked about the absolute lovely things you can get from Hexagon support, the fantastic ways it can improve your business or help you invest in your people. But how does it work commercially? How do existing customers who have Hexagon software, how do they get, maybe they've not got a software support package, how do they get involved? And maybe new prospective customers, what does it look like for them? Do they do subscription? Can they get a support model? How does it work? How do people actually grab hold of the support?
So we try to work to the customer's needs and requirements. Obviously, we're moving down. Most of the industry is moving down the subscription path. Joys are with the subscription path is you get all of the latest updates. Your support is all included within the cost. It's a monthly fee rather than an instant outgoing.
It's kind of like, it sounds like you're tailoring a package to suit each person's needs.
Correct.
You know, as you've just
they've
said,
got different tiers, different approaches of subscription. So if you need just the basics, you can get a lower tier. If you need everything all in, it's there's some advanced tiers, etc. So it gives you different flexibilities depending on your requirements as a business.
You talk about cake again. It's all those tiers again.
I love it. Can we get a 4 tier this time, please? But what I find funny is that the subscription model, it's such a low cost to even try the, let's say, I don't know what contract terms are, but just to try the software out for a month, it doesn't cost that much. If you were going to get the full, and this is for the full blown package, this is not like some little light version. So I find that it probably looks really quite nice on paper that if you want to try it out for 6 months, I'm sure your customers, when they get hold of the software and realize what the efficiency gains are, they won't get rid of it after 6 months. But it doesn't cost that much, even just to try the full package.
Most of the products really talk for themselves. It's most of our prospective customers, I mean, they're coming to us for a reason. They've got issues that they need to overcome, or they've got some sort of problem. They're not always forthcoming in telling us what that is, I've got to admit. But quite often, if I'm doing demonstrations or showing off the products to customers, I'll just let the product do the talking. Really, it usually becomes very apparent where that I've shown something where I think they might have an issue from what they've discussed with me, and you can tell when you've sort of shown them the right things, because the questions...
Is that when the eyes start lighting up?
Yeah, the questions just keep falling out of them, basically, and you sort of... And it's just self-perpetuating, and it's you can tell that that you're going down the right path with that particular company, really.
And what I think might be a bit of a travesty is that since you've got a constant outgoing every month, if only you could quantify the efficiency gains and the cost savings per month, you would literally almost see kind of like not a profit, but a real hard
benefit.
Cost saving every month. But that would be probably a bit of a big job to do. But I'm sure if they could see those numbers, then it would just be an obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of repeat business, I would say. So, from buying the base level of the software, I would say. That to get repeat business is obviously it shows us that we're doing something right. Really, we're giving some worth within the product, that the company that's bought the product is growing in themselves. So it's moving everybody forward in the long run.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I mean, it's amazing. Again, how big Hexagon is, how much support you offer to your customer. I mean, I don't want to think how many calls you get a day. That would be a rather large number. But
is this an easier day for you talking on a podcast, Paul, than a normal day in the office?
It's a different day.
Careful what you say. It's a different day.
Tell us what you really think.
Good answer.
Brilliant. So we've discussed the great support from Hexagon, and also how they help you invest in your most important asset, which is your people. Definitely. They keep the business running, and they keep people make the world go round, don't they? So again, a big thanks to our guests. It's Vicky Allnutt, Paul Smithson, Lindsay Vickers. If you want to get in touch or ask any questions, we can pass them on to Hexagon. You can ask them yourselves. Get in touch on the social channels, MTDCNC. Make sure you subscribe, and a big thank you for listening to the podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.